break windows, that's when the media gonna see it.
That's
say,
right.
oh, look what they out there doing, but that's just gonna catch people's attention to see what really happened.
That's right.
That's right.
Same thing, like, you know what I mean? Wow. But that's what gotta be seen, that's what gotta be done.
Right on. So you wasn't falling for the good protesters versus the bad protesters.
I mean, everybody's on a different path. Everybody ain't gonna be on the same page. So as long as his name is getting carried on, I appreciate it.
Right on. Finally, Ms. Keith, what were some of the things that you would like to see now?
There were so many lessons to learn, and what happened, I think Kat said something very special as it related to Oakland and its organizing capacity that was reflected in Occupy. If you go back and study Attorney Ray.
Hold on. I want to get that name. You said Attorney who? Attorney Michael Ray. Michael Ray, that was the Mesley's attorney, that's right.
He's the attorney for the police unions.
So he handles all the police cases.
All their cases.
He's always their attorney.
But in his filing of a motion to move this trial from Oakland to somewhere else, he laid out a history that bore witness that he and his people know why black folk are so upset about police brutality. So he laid out the history of the Panther Party, how it came to birth.
What do you mean laid out? In court?
He laid it out in the filing. He didn't have to speak. He gave it to the judge. But the filing,
he prepared something.
Yes.
And he gave it to...
It's about an 80-page document that talks about why they could not get a fair trial in Alameda County.
Why Mesley couldn't get a fair trial?
His argument was that police brutality is so historic to Oakland that it gave birth to the Black Panther Party. And then the Nation of Islam and the other pastors would get involved. Because if you go back, I believe Huey's funeral was at Allen Temple.
No.
So now you've got where was it?
It was in East Oakland, but
It was
not
in East Oakland, not at Allen Temple.
It was at Allen
And
Temple.
a memorial at Allen Temple. So, in other words, there's connections here. And he drew the connections. He went so far as to take the speeches that were given by some of the clergy during those rallies on January the 7th, and he fed that into the fight. Then he came to court with newspaper headlines. The only time I've ever been on the cover of the Oakland Tribune was then. And I didn't like it then because they didn't cover nothing else we ever did. So I was suspicious when I saw my face on the cover of the Oakland Tribune. Raines came into court with that Tribune in his hand and said, "Your Honor, this is why we can't have a fair trial in Oakland."
Do y'all hear this? They used
the media.
They used us. They used the fact that there's police brutality. This is Mesley's attorney. Used the fact that there's police brutality, stuff that they do, for his offense. Whoa, that's deep.
So there were many lessons. In fact, he attributed violence to people that were not violent, like the Nation of Islam, in the lesson. So we were actually intending to challenge what he filed, only to discover from our attorneys that a lawyer doesn't have to tell the truth in the filing. Is that true, attorney?
Sad but true.
So they can say what they want on paper. And they told us if he came out of that courtroom and spoke it, that he had spoken allegations against the Nation of Islam in his filing that were untrue. And had he come out of that courtroom and spoken it, then we could have challenged him. But as long as it was in a filing for the judge's consideration, that it wouldn't mean anything.
I don't get. You mean they could lie?
Legal lying.
Legal lying, they can get away. As long as it's written, what orally if they say it is different from if they submit it.
If they
Cal jumped over the
outside
moon,
of the court proceeding,
and they can put that in there.
you can say it in the court
Then it's
proceeding.
live.
But we also learned in this case that the media is only going to go so far. We all know that Peroni, before Oscar was killed, a few seconds, shouted him down face to nose and called him a B word, A word.
Bitch ass nigga.
You got it. My children are not here. Okay, bitch ass nigga. And he said it twice. He denied it in court. The attorneys of the prosecutor brought in the video and said, "Listen to this." And we're sitting there. Bitch ass nigga, right? Bitch ass nigga, right? Is that your voice? Well, he must have said it to me first. That was his defense. Well, that doesn't work with our children, so it certainly wouldn't work with a law enforcement officer. But here's the kicker. Every day we came out, John Burris had a press conference. Every day. And the media asked questions each day as they occupied half the seats in that courtroom. Literally. That half was the media. This half was Oscar's friends who could stay because they got kicked out a few times unjustly by the sheriff's department. So half the audience is no, in Oakland.
In Oakland, okay.
And LA.
Well, here's the thing. When Peroni called Oscar a bitch-ass nigga in court, the media did not cover it. They came out of the press conference, and they did not ask Attorney Burris or Cephas, what do you think about bitch-ass nigga? I had a black reporter who worked for one of the big networks call me. He said, you heard what they said? I said, yeah, I heard what they said. And the brother said, well, you need to have a press conference. I said, I don't need to do anything. You work for a major network. You were in the courtroom with a camera and a recorder and could make this known as soon as we had come out. But they refused. So much like they hold down the tapes, they held down what they thought was volatile information that the public would have to respond to. So the media, even though KTVU won awards for the murder of Oscar Grant, it's not our friend. They just happen to be in a position to make a report. Going down to LA for trial, I flew multiple times with the Oakland media.
Wow.
And they didn't have any real questions for us of real nature about the case. They didn't really want to hear what we had to say, to the degree that after the verdict was made and we spoke to the media, they packed up their cameras and started to leave until Wanda stood up and said, I want to say something. So they had captured their sound bites, as they would have done with Cat. If they heard a word that they thought they could use to diminish the movement, okay, let's take that sound bite and put that on ABC News, but we're going to miss the volume of the great work that Cat and others were doing to organize. I got a call from a highly placed elected official while we were down for the verdict. I was on KPFA. KPFA was running that story about these out-of-towners coming and tearing up Oakland. They asked me, what do you think about people coming from out of town? I told them Dr. King was from out of town.
What?
And he was challenged in Alabama for coming in from out of town. So I'm not going to concede to you that if somebody came to Oakland from out of town to protest their civil right to make their voices heard, that I'm going to assume that those committing acts of violence are from out of town. I don't know. You know who it is, go arrest them. Otherwise, you're spinning a story. So I got a call. I heard you were endorsing violence. No. Sir. I won't call his name. But no, sir. Dr. King said, I'm here because injustice is here. And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Dr. King was from Georgia. He had no business in Alabama, except that injustice was in Alabama. So I wouldn't concede for them, and they became upset, feeling that we were somehow endorsing some violent trend that was going on. Now, if you'll notice, in all of the other murders that have occurred since then, unfortunately, there's only a handful of lawyers. You can almost name every lawyer who's got a strong case or has won a strong case against police brutality, to the degree that when Trayvon Martin was murdered, that community was not organized as well as Oakland was. And when others have been murdered, those communities were not as well organized. While there's much more that we can do, it was my honor to open up the doors for all of the activists to meet as best we could, because we needed all those voices. We needed all those ideas to approach the subject matters that we were dealing with. And we were open for it. We certainly thank our brother. He's moved to Chicago now, our pastor from Olivet Institutional Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Humphrey.
Yeah.
He opened up his doors weekly for 2 years and would not allow us to give him a dime. We wanted to raise money and give it to him for his church. He wouldn't accept it. So as a servant, he made those facilities available. Not all pastors are equal. Not all activists are equal. that true?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So that man made a demonstration of a special kind of heart that he would allow that church, with or without his congregation's agreement. He had to move them to agreement that all of these non-members of the church would be permitted in the facilities in such a regular way. And he did it until we were prepared to stop doing it. So we're very grateful for the many voices, the many elements. We really needed every one of those elements. It was easier to talk to the sheriff when he's looking outside and he sees Cat and Mr. Siegel and others down on the steps of the courtroom. And the sheriff told us, Ahern, he said the worst thing that ever happened to him was that this trial might be in Oakland. He's looking out his window, and we're jamming him because the cops, the sheriffs, were putting Oscar's friends out of the courtroom. We went to go jam him on that and to confront him about it. And that's when he threw his head down. Worst thing ever happened was that this trial is in Oakland. And he pointed at 5 people who were out on the 5. You might have been out. 5. Sign, bullhorn, flyer. 5 people. This man is the sheriff of I don't know how many sheriffs in the county. How many deputies are there in Alameda County? Anybody know?
A bunch.
You gotta be more than 1,000. Right?
Almost.
They run the fourth largest jail.
The 4th largest. This man said his greatest fear was Tony and Cat and Dave down on the corner holding up a sign bringing attention to the case. Now, if that put that much fear in him, then you have to know the kind of fright they have when the community is organized and comes united to make a change. So we didn't mind that it was hot on the streets of Oakland. We were down in LA. Keep it hot.
That's right.
Because it gives us leverage from which to talk.
That's right.
We didn't order anybody to do
That's
anything.
right.
This is what God put in the heart of people.
That's right.
So since I believe in God, then I know that God put it in the heart of people to move certain kinds of ways. And I can't control
Let's
it.
go, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know they try to split us up. Good protesters versus bad protesters. You hear what he's saying? This is deep.
So, we didn't know all the elements. We knew that there were undercover police in the fray. We expected that, which only means that when somebody gets in your ear in the middle of a movement and offers you an idea that sounds unlawful and dangerous, you think about it 3 times about who's doing the talking.
That's right.
And about how you respond.
That's right.
There was a brother, I'll stop on this, in the East Coast, in the so-called war on terrorism, a Muslim. But he had fallen victim of a law. He was in possession of a drug of some kind. And when they arrested him, they said, okay, we're not going to send you to jail. We're going to send you to the mosque. And when you get there, we want you to, snoop around and sniff up. If you can find somebody that is suggesting something unlawful. Well, he came back and said, I sniffed it all up, and I didn't see nothing unlawful. And they said, okay, now go back then. And we want you to offer something unlawful and see how they act. Now, he went back and he thought about it. This is not cool. I ain't with that. And he came out and turned on it. And it became a public news item that was published in our newspaper, the Final Call, and other places. But he came out and turned on the police that sent him in as an informant to stimulate problems among those who were simply trying to be innocent worshipers. Now, they would do that in a place of worship. They would do that at a town hall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They would do that in a meeting
That's
like
right.
this. Somebody come in and say, I got weapons stashed around the corner. Let's make our move tonight. Who's with me?
Yeah.
Well, they're drawing people out and into prison or into death-confronting situations. So we have to be wise enough and alert enough to know that these types of meetings don't go unobserved. Never think that this humble facility is not in the radar of law enforcement. When the Panthers began, in the first 10 members or so, there was an FBI agent. So when they were just sitting together, huddled up at Merritt College or somewhere, the FBI was already involved. When I was a college student, BSU president, we busted out agents in the school who came and joined the BSU. Then we found out they had no school record. And when we found this Negro out, and he found out we found him out, he never showed his face again. He disappeared. There was a brother that spoke today. I don't know if he's here right now, Brother Hussein Bey. And he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We were in school together. And here we are, some innocent students who barely can have a protest against apartheid, trying to make our voices heard, but here the government is sending in disrupting agents into what we're doing. So we have to know that if we're in private, and you think you're speaking privately, don't say anything in the private you're not willing to hear in the public.
Well, that's deep. Say it again.
Don't say anything in the private you're not willing to hear in the public. That's for your own organizing security.
That's right.
Y'all with me now?
Yes, sir.
Let's say it one more time.
Don't say anything in the private. This is not really private. The doors are open.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
There's a law enforcement authority somewhere, either in here or out there, with a boom mic facing right at that window and at that door that can hear you breathe, much less
Hear your heartbeat.
Y'all with me now?
Yes.
So we don't say anything in the private that we're not willing to face in the public. So now we're going to have to be principled in our conversations now. And if we cannot be principled, then we have to make agreements on principle.
Right on.
Okay. On principle, this is how we're going to meet. If you violate the principle, we may have to dismiss you from the meeting. We had to do that at the town halls. Some of you might remember.
Yeah.
We had to protect principle so that we could maneuver without having to fight it internally in such an open way. It's not that we can't disagree. I'm sure Kat and I may disagree on an issue or two. I don't know. We've never sat up and said, I disagree with you.
Not yet.
Right? It's not that we can't, because we're not the same person. I'm sure there's something we disagree about. But it's fine. They have a Congress that meets every day. Do all them Democrats and Republicans on everything? They almost don't agree on nothing until the money flows. Now, when the money flows, they start agreeing. So when you start finding massive support for things you know are unjust, check the money flow. That's where the agreement came from. But if you get them in private conversation, they hate each other.
That's right.
They abuse each other. They're taking each other's wives and husbands from one another. I mean, it gets real down and dirty in the Congress.
That's right.
So the point I'm raising here, though, is this whole system was built on the basis of voices of persons that agree and disagree. They come to some reasonable agreement based on a consensus or majority vote, correct?
That's right.
Well, we have to know that we're not going to agree on everything. You don't have to speak the language that I speak, practice the faith that I practice, but the principle that I stand on, you should be able to bank on that.
That's right.
If I tell you that I'm going to stand on the truth, then you should expect me to stand right there. If I say I'm with you till the wheels fall off, then we're going to be able to till the wheels fall off.
All right.
You got to be able to stand on it.
Right on. All right. I want, before we open it up to, because now I want to open it up to the audience and for y'all to have, if y'all have any questions. Before I do that, I want